Due to the nature of this program, listener aggression is advised.
This is Chris Broderick with the Fever 333.
Pusillus Maximus from Guard.
This is Eric from Necrogoblicon.
Hey, this is Jamie from Bullet My Valentine.
Hey, you got Dimebag's Hack.
I do a million interviews, and you guys know how to have fun.
What's up? This is Sam Rivers.
And this is Damon from Sleep Killers.
What's up, guys? It's Dorothy.
Hi, I'm Todd.
And I'm Frank.
From Slash featuring Miles Kennedy and the Conspirators.
This is Stephen Brewer from Westfield Massacre.
This is Joe from Dead.
This is Tommy Vex from The Bad Wolves.
This is Ivan from Disconnected. And right now, you're listening to Honest. Motherfucker.
Hey, this is Caleb.
And this is Bryan.
And we're with Imperial Skies, and you're listening to Honest Brutality.
Welcome to Honest Brutality. This is the show that is all things rock, metal, and stuff that doesn't suck. I'm your host, Evil.
And this is Big Sloppy, along for the ride.
Along for the ride today, huh?
I am along for the ride.
No effort on your part.
Dude, I'm fighting a fucking cold. I don't know if you can hear it, but...
sound excellent. This is going to be a great episode.
I'm such a badass. I'll fight my way through this fucking thing. I'm not afraid.
We have some guests on the line today, all the way from South Bend, Indiana. I've never been out that far, so I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about.
Well... I think these guys might be fighting Irish fans. I'm just guessing.
Well, we're going to find out. We are talking to Imperial Skies today. Gentlemen, how are you?
We are great.
We're doing good.
So are you fans of the Fighting Irish?
We absolutely are.
Yep.
It's like the law in South Bend, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Kind of thought so. People's looking at me like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, I'm just not a sports guy.
It's Notre Dame.
Hey, guys, take just a second and introduce yourselves respectively and what you do in the band, please.
I'm Caleb Fairchild, and I do vocals and help out with the recording and production in Imperial Skies.
Yep, and I'm Bryan Kelso. I'm pretty much primarily a guitar player, and I do a lot of the recording, production, mixing, mastering, all that cool behind-the-scenes stuff.
Don't let Bryan fool you. He is the evil, mastical wizard that gets everything together.
I was going to ask, is it always the back of Bryan's head I see in all the videos staring at the screen?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, am I mistaken here, but we first made contact with you guys via Reverb Nation, right?
That is correct.
Yeah, and it was an excellent thing. I mean, that's been a really cool thing for our show. And I know that there's kind of a love-hate thing out there with Reverb Nation, but they seem to be doing a lot of great things for artists. In fact, connecting guys like us with guys like you.
Yeah, it's a cool platform to work on. They offer lots of cool stuff. I know we've won just multiple awards and stuff by using Reverb Nation just to help push the envelope a little further.
Multiple awards. Can you elaborate?
So in addition to some of the Honest Brutality contests and things that we've won, we've done a few other ones across the country with some other radio and internet-based radio stations. From Cleveland and Connecticut, and I think one in Missouri and one down in Texas as well. So it's been a nice way for us to kind of connect with people all over across the country and meet some cool people and get to do some things aside from sitting in a room making cool tunes.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you do get to meet some cool people.
So we're missing one member today, is that right?
That's right.
And that's Ryan?
That is Ryan Drivobus, our rhythm guitar player.
Yep.
Rhythm guitar players, yeah, they're useless anyway.
Yeah.
So I got to tell you, looking here at the fact that we have a three-piece band, which is actually one of my favorite sorts of ensembles.
You've been a part of a three-piece a few times,
several.
right?
Yeah, that was actually kind of my forte, so to speak, when I was, actively, musically active rather, and was always being in a three-piece.
Right.
And you guys are a three-piece band, but my God, you make a lot of noise for three dudes.
We certainly try to.
Yeah.
It's a big sound for sure, right?
Right, yeah. So let's talk a little bit about your big sound and why you have approached it that way and where you're headed with it.
So, it's kind of crazy because Bryan and I and Ryan actually were all in a band back in high school, college age. And as life happens, we kind of all took a hiatus from all of that. And Ryan and I got married and had kids, not to each other. And kind of did the life thing, and Bryan had his own direction, and we kind of all scattered. as the dandelion in the wind. And so Bryan actually approached me, I think we're going on three years now ago. And we kind of got back together and life was in a different place. And so recording kind of made more sense for us instead of just rushing out and doing band practices and the road and things like that, at least immediately. And Bryan had acquired some equipment and did some things and had started writing some music, but needed the vocal aspect of things. And so we kind of started putting our heads together, put together one track just kind of as a test, really, to kind of see how this was going to work out and how we were going to work out, because we hadn't actually written music together in, I think, 7 or 8 years in between that gap. And so it was kind of a neat little thing for us. And then by default, once that music kind of came out and once things started to surface that we were doing things again, Ryan wanted a piece of that. And so it's been kind of neat for us because we've really used this as more of a learning experience to try and learn the recording aspect of things and eventually, get to that point where we can even record other artists and mix and master other artists. But for me, on the business side of things, I realized nobody in the world's going to want to work with us if they don't know what we can do. And so we thought, well, who better to showcase what we can do on the recording aspect of things than a bunch of evil geniuses. And so we decided we were going to go old school and a little primitive, channeling our inner Van Halen and our inner Queen and start playing around with a bunch of different stuff. And that's really what we do is we just play around with all this cool equipment and try to make some cool sounds and see what it comes out to be.
I highly recommend your social feeds to the listening audience because you're a lot of fun to follow and to watch. You guys do these videos where you're recording the different parts of the new songs. One in particular that I really enjoyed was you guys all over the room recording the chanting, and and then all of a sudden you're out of frame, and I could hear you guys chanting, and then you pop up and you're like, "Well, we were under the desk because of the echo." And I'm like, "What are these guys doing?" And then you see a guy pop up from behind the couch, and it's pretty cool. It's a lot of fun. It looks like a lot of fun.
It is. We try to have a lot of fun doing it, and we spend a lot of time reading and watching videos and doing different things. Everything from, your studio basement type stuff all the way to, we watch a lot of high production stuff as well in big studios, and we watch what symphonies do, and we watch what all these other artists are doing across the country and across the world, not just currently, but even through history, and just trying to see whether any of that makes any sense for us.
Sure. So what does that look like for you guys as far as getting out and playing and doing live shows? Is that not as important for you guys in Imperial Skies as it is to actually record the content and keep that moving forward?
It just seems like a strong internet base is just the best route. I mean, we're all for playing shows, but having an internet presence, social media presence, YouTube channels, all that seems to be the way to make the biggest strides today.
That's the second time we've heard that in 24 hours.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But don't you get a rush? I mean, the thing about playing live is there's a rush there. There's a connection you make with the crowd that you can't get on the internet.
Oh, yeah.
It's a totally different thing. Yeah. I mean, I understand what you're saying. If you want to grow your product, it is through social media. There's no getting around that. That's just the way of the world now.
Yeah, right now.
Yep.
But with that said, the reason, like when I'm a show off. When I wanted to get, he was shaking his head over here. But I got a huge rush about being on stage and just goofing off with the audience and just becoming one with that audience. I mean, you can't get that online.
No, you can't.
And that's something that I think the more that we talk about it, we do eventually want to move this to a live sound and a live performance. We just want to make sure we're doing it the right way because there's so many bands across the world right now, especially with all these streaming sources. It's very easy to kind of get lost. So we want to make sure we're building a strong base first, as well as building kind of what our sound is, and then kind of going from there. The nice thing is we're a 3-piece, so we kind of have a little more control over that, and so we can do that. And then from there, it's like anything, it's just logistics. Trying to make it all work.
Now, you guys are a 3-piece, and so I'm going to assume that you guys draw from other 3-pieces. Who's influencing you guys right now?
Oh, man.
The crazy thing is we don't just draw from a lot of 3-pieces. Bryan and I have always been on the same page when it comes to diversity. We draw from probably almost every genre you can think of, with the exception of country, because that's not real music.
Thank you. Second time in 2 days we've heard that.
I like these guys even
other
more.
than that, I mean, him and I listen to everything from the darkest, heaviest, deepest metal to pop. We listen to anything from top 40 to very underground stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's days I'll sit and listen to classic rock, and then the next day I'll be listening to movie soundtracks. I don't know. It's just good to just kind of, I don't know, we like to experiment and push the envelope. We don't want like a stale sound like everybody else has. So we want to combine different influences like movie scores with meets metal, or, just something different that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I see that where you guys have your one sheet, so to speak, and your artists we also like. It's pretty all over the map,
It really is. Yeah.
And I was kind of picking up on that. I'm like, well, this is kind of interesting. It's another interesting thing is your sound overall, because I do pick up elements of a little bit of everybody you're calling out. How do you guys categorize your music? Because I'm not sure what to call it. It's kind of metalcore, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but
right.
It's not like it needs a pigeonhole. But if you were to give it a label, what would you call it?
That's actually funny, because that's one thing we always struggle with. When we are promoting ourselves or advertising or marketing or any of these other things, or even just connecting with other people, everybody wants to put you in a box somewhere. They want to know, okay, what is this called? And we all kind of look at each other and go, we don't know. We've asked other family members and other friends, and we've asked other people and said, okay, who do we sound like? And everybody kind of scratches their head. They can kind of go, well, you kind of sound like As I Lay Dying meets this other band, and then you just get like 3 or 4 different things, and then they're not even the same genre, and which is actually in some ways the answer we're looking for. Is kind of, we don't want people to go, oh, you sound like an As I Lay Dying cover band, or you sound like All That Remains, or you sound like whoever. We want people to kind of scratch their head and go, I'm not really sure. We'll be able to play you on the radio with these other heavier bands, but at the same time, we can actually kind of play you with other things too.
There's a channel on YouTube that I follow on. I shouldn't give this out because I find a lot of bands there.
It's your gold mine. You're going to hand out for your gold mine?
There's one on there called Space Untravel that you guys would fit right in with. It's bands.
I'd have to agree. Yeah,
very similar to what you guys do. I don't know if there's a name for it. It's a channel I go to.
Yeah,
it's got bands such as
and they're all over the map too.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is kind of how that works.
But I think you guys should drop some music on there. You guys pick up a lot of fans there. But
we definitely might have to do that.
Take note of that.
You're welcome. That's what Big Sloppy does.
That's what we're here for. Well, Imperial Skies, you guys come across as in moments you have this real metalcore feel, and then other moments you're very melodic and smooth, and then you actually have some pop sensibility. So it is a kind of a really diverse sound. And it's a little surprising too, because when your vocals are guttural and heavy, I mean, they are brutal, and you're such nice looking guys. You don't look like you should be that angry.
That is one thing that we always get a little bit of a kick out of. I think, in fact, if nothing else, our spouses always get a kick out of, because they're very nice ladies, and usually they get, what do your husbands do? And we all have 9-to-5 jobs and things that we do, and when we're working our 9-to-5 jobs, we're usually pretty clean cut, nice guys wearing shirts and ties and things like that. And then it never fails. There's a video that will surface through the workplace of me screaming or something, and I'll get just a rush of people coming in going, what is this?
Well,
I actually, in fact, I work at a car dealership, and so my parts and service manager just last week had come up and he goes, I thought there was something wrong with my speakers because it sounded like static. But the more I turned it up, the more I realized you wanted it to sound that way. And which I kind of just laughed at and shrugged off. I mean, we've been doing this long enough that, you're always going to have those people that just don't get it.
Right.
But usually right behind him, there's somebody else going, dude, that was sick as fuck. Well, I did not know that you could do that. You are way too clean cut for that, man.
That might be an effective car sales tactic to just start, scream. Yeah.
It is. I think we have to make like a little YouTube commercial or something.
Yes.
The metal salesman.
Oh,
the
there you go.
metal guy selling metal.
I think that would be perfect.
Yeah. Well, I know why you're angry. You have kids, right?
Oh my gosh.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's all you need to draw from, bro. And you're married? Yeah, I get it.
Yes. I am married, and Ryan is married, and Brian is in a super awesome, stable relationship. So.
Yep, you got to have that release, bro. I get it. I've been married for almost 30 years and 4 kids. That's why I'm still kind of angry too. So
absolutely,
you should meet her.
They call her the most tolerant woman in the
I do
in the
indeed. This is true. We talked about it a little bit earlier. You guys are up in Indiana. Now, I'm not familiar with the region. That's a pretty cold area this time of year, right? In the middle of the winter?
It is.
I think just 2 weeks ago, we had temperatures that were colder than Antarctica. So,
I was there. I was in Kentucky at the time. I know. I was experiencing it. I was there with a little windbreak. I'm from California, for God's sake. I'm out there. It's -15. I said, people live in this shit? No way.
Oh, yeah. You get familiar with things like, lake effect and polar vortex. And
I heard those terms when I was there.
Oh, yeah. They sound like they should be like album titles or something.
It's so true.
Well, I guess what I was getting at is, does that affect your songwriting? Does that affect your mentality when you're approaching music?
Oh, it definitely makes it easier to stay inside and work on music.
Yeah, right.
No reason to go outside.
Hey, I got a question for you. You have a song called, I think it's Sand and Blood, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, when I saw that title, the first thing that crossed my mind was Spartacus. Was that inspired by that?
The short story is we were actually writing that song, and it didn't really have a title. Our little secret is when we're writing most of our songs, they all have code names until we actually get to the very end. So they all had code names, and that song, we were actually at the point we were just about done with it. And I actually was going from downstairs to upstairs and passed by the television, and Brian's roommate was actually watching that show, and he had it paused. And when he had it paused, it popped up with the title of that episode or whatever. And I just happened to glance over and I went, Sand and Blood. Oh my God, that's the name of the song. that's the name of the song. It fit exactly what I was thinking and what I was trying to accomplish. And so it just stuck. And when I presented it to the guys, they're like, oh yeah, absolutely.
Good thing he wasn't watching South Park. Odd.
Right. At least it was something he was watching and not something my kids were watching. You would,
dude. If your kids are watching Spartacus, we got to talk.
No, my kids watch some cool stuff, but I wouldn't want to name any songs after what they're watching.
Well, speaking of your songs, your current discography, it looks like you guys are kind of piecing out some EPs and doing that kind of thing. Are you working on some singles? What are you doing next? Because I know you're actually recording some stuff right now. What is that?
I think we're kind of striving towards another album right now.
Yeah, we did have a little bit of a gap in time between our Affinity album and the next song we put out, which was Paralyzed, and that was predominantly Bryan and I. Logistically, because of where we're located, even though we consider ourselves from South Bend, because all three of us were born and raised in South Bend, or in the general area, and Bryan lives in South Bend now. I actually live in Brighton, Michigan, and Ryan lives in Lafayette, Indiana. So between Ryan and I, there's actually almost 6 hours in drive time.
Wow.
It so happens South Bend happens to be right in the middle, which is where we're kind of all from. So that works out, but it makes things a little difficult when we're recording. We actually have started here this transition into each of us having kind of our own studio, with Brian's being kind of our primary, so that at least we can exchange ideas and write back and forth a little bit faster, and then kind of, every so often be able to get together to finish things a little bit better and a little bit faster and work on multiple projects at once. But like Bryan mentioned, moving towards probably another album is the goal here. We have probably 5, 6, 7, 8 songs kind of somewhere in transition. So we're just kind of starting to button that stuff up. We've got one that hopefully is going to be done here actually very, very soon. We've been working on all this weekend, and hopefully spring, summer-ish, we'll be able to put together another 5, 6, 7, 8 songs and push that out.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we're looking forward to it for sure. Yeah.
So you're going to do a full length. album?
Probably more than likely. It seems like once we get kind of going, we kind of can't stop.
Yeah, it starts to snowball.
Okay,
that's
good.
the way Affinity started for us. It started off as, okay, well, we'll do 1 or 2 songs, and then, okay, well, we should probably just do like 3 songs, just a 3-song EP. Well, no, we've got these other songs we should kind of throw on there. And then, we've got this really cool piece, but we can't do anything with it. We'll just make that an intro track. And then we've got this other piece, but we can't really figure out vocals. So we'll just make that an intermission piece. And by the time all was said and done, we had 9 tracks. And we're like, oh, I guess that is considered a full length.
It's either that or it's an EEP, right? It's
right. We
super
still
extended.
Consider it an EP amongst us, but when I was submitting that to distribution for Spotify and iTunes and all those other places, they kicked it back to me and go, no, this is an LP because it's over a half hour and because it has more than 8 tracks. I'm like, oh, I guess it is. Shows what I know.
Well, it's interesting, and it'll be interesting to see what you guys come up with. I'm kind of excited personally. It's been a lot, like I said, a lot of fun following your recording process and like, well, what does that do when they plug it in? Where does that go? What is that going to sound like? That's kind of a neat thing you're doing with building like a family of people who are interested in what you're building, and keeping them involved in the process. That's pretty smart.
Yeah, I find, again, we all have 9-to-5 jobs and kind of have lives outside of music. But whenever I talk to other people and they start to find out kind of what we do in our free time or what we're doing for this, there's always a lot of questions like, well, how do you do that? And I think there's somewhat of a misunderstanding or a misconception that, well, since we don't do it full time and since, we're just doing it in a home studio, that surely the quality's got to be not very good and surely things have got to be of a lesser caliber. So we really started kind of putting the videos out to kind of show people, okay, this is really the process we're doing, and we really are taking it serious when we have the time, and then being able to show people, okay, this is what we do, but here's also the finished product. And then usually you get some raised eyebrows going, oh, that actually sounds pretty good. You guys did that yourself? Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, and that's interesting because you guys are basically 100% DIY. I mean, you're not, I shouldn't assume. Are you reaching out to anybody for pre-production, post-production, mixing, mastering? Are you doing everything in-house?
Everything's in-house.
We do everything in-house. There was like one contest through Reverb Nation that we did win for somebody to master one of our songs. And we played around with it, but we ultimately decided that we actually preferred kind of the control and our own sound. The guy that did it was certainly professional and it was very good quality. It just wasn't quite the sound we were looking for, and it was kind of almost hard to describe. And we knew what we were talking about, and we kind of couldn't relay it to him. And so we finally just said, "Hey, we'll just kind of do our own thing." Thanks. Not offense, but it was like we kind of have this groove and the sound we're looking for, and it may not be cookie cutter metal. It may not be exactly what this band sounds like or that band sounds like, and so having that control is a little bit easier for us.
Yeah, thanks, Rob Rock, but we don't need your guidance here.
No. There are certain people that I think they could have just put out fart noises, and I probably would have just said, yeah, okay, whatever. Yeah. We all have our idols, but this guy was not one of them.
Right. I'm going to make a note here. Control freaks from Indiana.
Right. Yeah. I admire that.
I do too.
You knew what you wanted and you held on to that. That's pretty cool.
And here's the thing too, is you guys, have any of you actually, aside from being self-taught in any of this, have you had any, higher education in audio mastering, recording, production, any of it?
Lots of YouTube videos.
YouTube University, huh?
Yeah, YouTube University.
Bryan, I think, did a few classes.
Ryan Purdue. At Purdue did a couple.
Purdue?
Yeah.
He's a Boilermaker?
He is unfortunately a Boilermaker, yes.
Unfortunately.
That's why he spends as little time with us as probably possible. It's also why we let Bryan do everything, because Ryan's education sucks.
Oh, damn! Damn! There it is.
Poor guy's not even there to defend himself.
That's the best time to kick him.
I know it, right? We'll have to get him on and have him do his own retaliation.
Little rebuttal here.
Yeah.
That'd be brutal.
Start a war.
Oh, my goodness.
And that was the end of Imperial Skies as we knew it.
So you guys, of all the stuff that you've recorded, that you've written, what's your favorite piece that you've done so far?
Oh, wow.
That's kind of hard. I think there's so many different elements that we like certain elements. It seems like unanimously across the three of us, the full track from start to finish, all the parts and pieces that we like the most would be our track, Who I Am. And I think it's just because of the way that it came together and because of the sound that kind of manifested is just something we've even tried to duplicate and kind of can't. And so we kind of just put that on a shelf a little bit and go, okay, well, that's going to stand on its own and we'll do other things. But we do use it as a benchmark. And it's, I think, also the track that, not only do we enjoy, but our spouses enjoy and friends and family and stuff enjoy as well.
Yeah, it's our most friendly song. Personally, for me, Who I Am is probably my favorite song because I grew up listening to like 80s metal, like ripping solos from Eddie Van Halen and all stuff like that. And the guys gave me about 2 minutes at the end of the song just to rip a solo. So personally,
I like it.
It's my pride and joy.
It is the most Bryan Kelso song of all of them, because when Bryan writes songs, if they can be longer, that is better, and if they can have more solos, that's better.
I would have to agree.
I'm a solo guy. You're not gonna lose me on solos. I grew up.
No, we love it.
Yeah, I grew up in the '80s, bro. I mean, I was a huge Randy Rhoads, Yngwie. Yeah. All those guys were my idols growing up.
Guitar rock.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're speaking to my language here. If you say solo, I'm in.
Oh yeah. They're great. Most of them are not radio friendly because they're like 9.5 minutes long. Mostly instrumental, but
most radio can suck it, as far as I'm concerned. You got rock rage here, bitch. We're gonna play that shit.
Yeah, we could play 9-minute songs. We don't care.
We don't give a fuck.
We are glad for more internet radio and more other stuff that actually allows to break that mold, so that we're not all trying to fit 3.5 minute songs.
Yeah, us too. Yeah. I mean, quite honestly, the FM market really has kind of decayed.
Yeah.
They're trying to hold on to the last bastion, and unless they get with it and change their formats, they're just not going to survive.
Oh, absolutely.
I agree. I like I like when a band could build a song. I look at Tool, especially.
Very good point.
They're great at building a song to a super crescendo at the end. I love that stuff.
Yeah, that's my favorite method.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to have stages to a song for an epic song, I should say.
Sure.
Yeah, for me, like a song has to build to like the biggest ending you can possibly imagine. That's
I always lean on Vicarious by Tool for that, by the way, because the way it starts and then the way it ends. It's a long song. It's not 3.5 minutes. It's like 5 or 6 minutes long. But it builds. It's that slow build, and it's fucking epic at the end. You're like, oh my God. I just shit myself. It's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if a song doesn't make you have a bowel movement, I mean, it's not even a good song.
So, Bryan, do you ever take liberties with the recording process to try to squeeze in some extra work here and there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I definitely do.
I love it.
The guys say it's good. It's not good yet. It's got to be perfect.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I'll leave the studio and it's a 4-minute song, and then by the time he sends it to me, it's like 9.5 minutes, and the vocals have been taken out. So
the guitar player in me, I can't help it.
Thanks, Yngwie.
As far as the vocals are concerned, are you the sole lyric writer, the sole melody writer, or do you guys collaborate on that?
That's mostly Caleb. When it comes to singing stuff, we'll kind of go back and forth, shoot back ideas for like singing melodies. He'll sing some songs, I'll sing some songs. Just kind of depends on the vibe of the song that we're going for.
Yeah, lyrically, I think I write probably most of it, but there are some times where I get into some writer's block, and we'll kind of sit together. Actually, our track "Better Off" is probably the best example of that. I had a direction. I had probably 90% or maybe even 80% of the lyrics written, but I was just stuck with parts and pieces in between, and we kind of sat down together. And Ryan, actually, I think, and Bryan kind of helped build a lot of that transition and kind of make the whole story come together with some parts and pieces. So we do that. I think I'm probably often criticized for being a little bit of a control freak myself. So I like to be able to know what I'm doing with the lyrics and do some different things. And sometimes I get some stuff stuck in my head that people just don't understand. So trying to get that out is easiest just to do myself. But we do usually come up with some cool stuff when we're putting it together.
Well, at least they tell you it's cool till you leave the studio and Bryan takes over and cuts it all out.
Cuts it all out, and it's just a shred fest.
Yeah, Control Freak seems to be a reoccurring theme.
Yeah, I know, right?
Maybe that'll be your next song, you know?
It probably would, yeah.
Title of the next album, maybe?
I think, it's funny you mentioned that, because I think each one of us individually, both on a musical and personal level, are probably, in some ways, have been accused of that. But I think it's one of those things that almost kind of holds us together a little bit.
Yeah, here's the thing about us. We hadn't played music together, me, Ryan, and Caleb, in 6-7 years, and we all just kind of reunited, and it just felt so seamless. All the puzzle pieces just fit together. There was just no conflict. It just worked. So we were trying to figure out what to name that first album, and we came up with Affinity because it means just like having a chemistry together. Everything just flows. It works. So we decided on Affinity to be our first album.
Yeah, we all know kind of where each person's strengths are, and frankly know where each person's weaknesses are. And so we were able to kind of play with that, and we let each person do what they need to or what they want to do, and then kind of put it all together and go, okay, we know that we have a phenomenal guitar player that has very strong writing capabilities, so we use that to our advantage. Ryan, in a lot of ways, and maybe some joking aside, Bryan and I actually talk about this all the time. He changes the way Bryan has to write. Ryan is a very poppy, pop punk, probably very 2004, 2006 starting line kind of guy, almost.
Okay.
Completely different. And that's good. Now, he does listen to, heavier stuff as well, but he brings in that influence, and we'll start writing something, or a lot of times we'll purposely say, hey, Ryan, you start and give us a base to go from, because it's going to actually change the whole method in which we write, and it's going to make it not so one-dimensional. Bryan can actually probably answer that a little bit better as far as the writing, because it actually, I think Bryan actually has to retune his guitar to a completely different octave, because Bryan normally has.
Yeah, I have that the heavier, the better kind of mentality.
Oh yeah,
and
Ryan usually comes in and the two of them are looking at each other going, why doesn't this sound right? Oh, that's right. Ryan's in a tuning like way, way, way higher, like some 41 or something.
Yeah, about 4 or 5 steps above where I'm tuning.
Yeah.
So basically, hey, Ryan, start this song. We're going to make it better, but you start it.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, if he were here, I think he would actually agree to that. He helps us a lot with intros and a lot with our choruses, and some of the general construct of the verses. But really, the choruses and verses have always been Bryan and my weakness. And so we rely heavily on Ryan to kind of filter those in and make some stuff that is a little bit more friendly to the ear, and some stuff that people will relate to and recognize and get stuck in your head. He makes some poppier stuff, but that's not necessarily a bad thing.
No, he's the hook maker, right?
He is. Yeah. He definlet's is.
Did you just call him a hooker?
Oh, I guess I did.
Yes.
It could be argued he is.
So let's jump back just a little bit. We touched on it just a little bit, but you guys are essentially all in relationships or family men. Your families, your kids, how involved are they in what you do, and are they part of your process, part of your inspiration?
They are. It's funny because if you comb through our Facebook, you will see a video of my son screaming, or at least attempting to.
Yes, I've seen it. Yeah.
Which is actually pretty funny because, he was just hanging out with us one day, and, he's very curious about what we're doing. So we put a set of headphones on him and had him stand on a stool and said, let at it. And, no guidance, no education, no, hey, this is how you do it. Just do it. And it did give us a good laugh. And my wife was concerned medically for him. And but that's where it all starts. You start early and learn. And Ryan's the same way. His kids are definitely involved in stuff and banging around on drums and doing different things. And Yeah, I think from an inspiration standpoint too, when you have a family or you have friends and family and people, you want them to like what you do. So I'm always bouncing ideas off of, and our process too. When I leave here and go back home, and Bryan has kind of sent me what we've worked on. Usually the first thing I do is run into the living room and pop on the speakers and play it and kind of gauge the reaction. One thing I'm always looking for is, are my kids running around the room dancing to it? Whether it's heavier or whether it's lighter, I want my kids to get energy, because when they're listening to music, that's the first thing. They are like an extension of the energy, whether it's headbanging or whether it's running around or whether it's doing some goofy dance. If they can feel the energy, then I know it's a good song regardless of the genre.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense, actually.
Yeah, it'd be great on a Wiggles album.
I had to break the news to my son that Kids Bop is not a good thing, and that those are not original songs that they wrote.
Wow.
You just killed Santa. You're evil, bro.
I did. I ruined Christmas.
I love it.
Wasn't good.
How supportive are your spouses and significant others? Are they 100% behind what you do?
Oh, they're super supportive. I know my girlfriend gets sick of hearing the same song, so I'm working on them over and over and over and over. But for the most part, I think she likes the final products.
Don't let Bryan fool you. His girlfriend is super supportive because the largest room in their house is dedicated to the studio.
That's true, actually.
When they moved into this house, they were like, okay, where's the master bedroom going to be? Oh, wait, no, this is going to be the studio.
Oh, wow. Damn.
I got lucky. She let me.
Yeah, no, that's pretty cool, actually. With what you do, if somebody that you're with doesn't support your passion, it makes it real difficult to pursue that. In fact, it can be just a little bit of a heartbreaking thing because something's going to have to give. So that's really cool,
Yeah. Absolutely. And Ryan and I especially, we work quite a number of hours. I think we were just talking about this. I think I work more like 60 hours a week or so. So the free time is few and far between. And obviously I spend as much of that as I can with kids and wife. But then from there, it's music. And so it's nice that my wife says, hey, go take the weekend, go back home and, crank some stuff out. I'll see you on Sunday. And so that's nice to be able to have that luxury. And like I said, Ryan and I have also started to transition into building our own studios, not to the standard that Bryan has right now, but just kind of some stuff too that we can be able to play with and be able to write with and bounce ideas off of too. And that takes a certain level of commitment as well. When the other rooms in your house are full of toys and beds and all sorts of the other stuff for the kids.
Yeah, believe me, I understand.
Yeah.
And it is really important. I think it's very cool. And you guys are doing some really cool stuff. And to me, it seems like you're this burgeoning band. Like you could do a lot of crazy, great things. What are your plans? What does the future look like for Imperial Skies and for you guys as a group?
I think we've honed our skills in a little better now. I think just the quality is the biggest thing we want to push for now. We want to sound bigger and heavier and just more noticeable, I guess.
Yeah, I think we really are trying to strive towards putting out some more music and really feed off of some of the momentum that we've gained, online and with the music aspect. But we do continue to talk about playing live, and I think that's one of the things that I would say this year is probably going to be a big year for us to kind of start talking really seriously about that transition. Whether that happens this year or not, I don't necessarily know, but I think we'll start really planning and organizing and working towards what it takes to do that. Again, because we're all a little bit of a perfectionist and control freaks, we want to know that when we go out on the stage, one, that we're not how do I say this politically correct? We're not just playing in a little dive bar to two people on a really shitty PA. And we're just going to sound like every other local level band. We kind of have bigger aspirations and dreams of doing things, and we put a lot of time and effort. Not that other people don't, but we know for us that when we get back on stage, it's going to be the bigger the better, and not just from a person standpoint, but also from a sound standpoint. And so we're working on also crafting really a more of a live entertainment, live performance that we can do because we are a 3-piece and because we record so many layers of guitars and drums and all these other things.
I was just going to ask you about that. Seriously, what's that going to look like? Are you guys going to start rehearsing with backing tracks? You're going to have to. To replicate what you're doing, right?
Yeah, we can't get around backing tracks. That's going to be a necessity. But I think the energy, like we want to put a lot of energy into the performance once we actually do it. And everybody has backing tracks anymore, it seems. I go to concerts all the time, and I can't remember the last time I saw a band that didn't have backing tracks. Right. So
yeah.
Backing tracks don't bother me. It's when the bands, I don't like the lip syncing that you see a lot of the pop stars doing. That's what kills me. As long as you're playing your instrument, I don't give a shit. Yeah. I want entertain me. That's kind of the big thing when I go, but don't entertain me with fucking lip syncing. I hate that with a passion. But you guys, I'm listening to you guys talk, and I say, you sounded like fucking Muse. Is what it's coming across like, right?
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. And they've got a big sound, and what you guys are saying, I'm just thinking Muse for some reason. Don't ask me why. It just is.
Only a lot harder.
Yeah, right. A little heavier Muse.
There's a lot of things that they do from a live performance standpoint that I always do kind of look at. The other band that I look at personally, because they are currently a 3-piece that's playing live, is a band called Oh Sleeper out of Texas. And I've seen them a whole handful of times, and their music has a lot of intricate parts and pieces and things going on. And when you go and see them, you're expecting there to be 5, 6, 7, 8 people. And when they get on stage and they've got a guitar player, a vocalist, and a drummer, and you're going, okay, whoa. This doesn't fit my traditional mindset of there should be another guitar player, there should be a keyboardist on stage, there should be a bass player. Where are all these pieces? And the second he opens his mouth and they strum that guitar the first time, all that mindset goes out the window, and you go, holy shit, this is amazing. These guys are running around and they're tearing stuff apart, and they are just, my heart's going crazy. Right. And that's kind of what I'm looking for, is more of a, I want to be able to put a performance together that makes everybody forget that there's only 3 people on stage, and that they're not hearing a physical manifestation of every single note that's being heard, and just putting out, I guess, for lack of a better term, a performance, a piece of entertainment that's set to the music that we are performing vocally and with the guitars, and working on something more like that.
What standard are you going to hold yourself to as a quote unquote front man as far as your performance? Do you have somebody in mind that you intend to emulate or to replicate or to try to hold yourself to that standard?
The bigger the better. Like I said, we were in a band from high school and college age, and I if I can pat myself on the back, I'd say everybody knows me for being a little bit crazy. I wasn't I wasn't a sex, drugs, and rock and roll kind of guy. I was mostly just the sex and rock and roll. I didn't need the drugs because I just got a euphoria on stage, and I'm a little crazy when it comes to that. And so I almost hold myself to my own standard.
Good. That's good to hear.
Because of the fact that, I like to be able to fill a stage. And again, as I mentioned earlier, we look for, we want to play big stages, big crowds, big people. Ironically, from a relevance standpoint here, we watch that movie Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah,
and looking at and aside from the Hollywood version of it, looking at the band themselves, somebody like a Freddie Mercury was able to kind of fill that entire stage and a stadium with energy, and that's something I always kind of look at is, okay, as the front man, as the person that everybody's eyes are focused on for at least a moment, what are you doing to really take the energy of the song and throw that out into the crowd aside from just the sound? And so I always look at that, and I want to make sure that when I'm done with every performance, left it out there, and there's nothing to look back on and go, man, I wish I would have, or wish I didn't. And especially now in this day and age, when we were in high school and college, YouTube really wasn't as common and popular, and Facebook really wasn't, and things like that. And so I think it's even more important now that when we do a live performance and we put out a live manifestation of our music, there's going to be cell phones on us. There's going to be cameras and things like that, whether we want to or not. And you can either make or break pretty quick, because if you put a pretty lackluster performance, it's not going to necessarily matter what the music sounds like. Nobody's going to want to watch that video on YouTube.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things we also look at is, okay, can the 3 of us fill a stage, put out the energy, and do the energy and the sound to where you can not only listen to music, but when you rush to YouTube, are you going, man, that's awesome. I need to go see that because those guys are crazy.
Right.
It gives a little bit something more than just the CD.
No, and what you're telling me evokes images of a band that I've recently just sort of fallen in love with, which is the Fever 333. Because I got to see them live. And when I did, I was astounded that these three dudes made that much noise and wreaked that much havoc on the entire surrounding. The audience, they're hanging from the rafters. They're incredible live. And that's kind of the emotion I'm getting from hearing you talk about it. That's exciting. And I really look forward to seeing what you guys are going to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's big things ahead for us, I think. Just getting there. It's going to be the journey we got to overcome.
Yeah, thanks for the enthusiasm there, Bryan.
Hey, guys, is there anything that we didn't talk about today or touch on that you wanted to?
I know that, again, when people listen to our music, we draw from a diverse background of different stuff. We talked about that quite a bit. I think the funny thing is, or the amazing thing is, even though we draw from diverse backgrounds, each of us individually has a dominant side to it. Obviously, Bryan draws more from a Van Halen standpoint. And actually, personally, Bryan listens to probably the heaviest music of the three of us. I'm usually known for listening to some goofy stuff because I'm listening more to the vocals and some more unique vocalists. And then Ryan's listening to, I don't know, Taylor Swift maybe. So
don't you ever utter that name on the show again.
Not T-Swift bands.
Our guests have been Imperial Skies. Gentlemen, you have been fantastic guests. Thanks again for doing the show today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
I think you're welcome, actually.
There it is. See? There it is. I love it.
Graced you with our presence.
Now, do me a favor and tell the listening audience where they can connect with you, where they can find your music, where they can find all things Imperial Skies.
You can check us out just about everywhere that music is currently available. We're available on Spotify, iTunes, Apple. We're available on YouTube, Google Play, just about everywhere that you would listen to music now.
Fantastic. Well, Imperial Skies are very nice guys.
Yeah, and professional radio voices, apparently.
Yeah, oh my God. No, their audio is stellar. I dig their approach to what they're doing. It's a little bit different. A lot of bands focus very heavily on getting out and play. And these guys are, let's really develop content and then support it.
Yeah.
And it's a different, avenue.
It kind of reminded me a little bit of Backwards when we had them on and Eric July.
Yeah, very similar, actually.
Yeah, they wanted to build that base up before they got out and got in front of people. And it made a lot of sense. And then the way they want to approach when they do finally go live is going to be like, we got to
all in
something. Yeah,
all
just
in.
something crazy out there, which I dig it, man. I thought that was pretty cool. And the fact that, Ryan wouldn't shut the hell up. Yeah, Ryan, I know you weren't there.
You
take
know what?
that.
I figure if we're friends with 2/3 of the band, we're good, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so
we win with the majority.
What the hell?
Of course I kid. Not really. Anyway.
Hey, get over and check these guys out. They are a new emerging band, and that's part of what we do here is bring the bands to you that we think you should hear, that you will love. You just don't know it yet.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And thank you to all of you who have listened today. Thank you so much. Once again, we really appreciate you. Come over and check us out on all of our socials. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can also check us out at honestbrutality.com. If you don't already know, wherever you're listening to this podcast, you can catch it everywhere. We're on Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you're listening. If you could give us a rating and a review, we'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, on Saturdays, you can check us out on our radio show on Rock Rage Radio. You can go to rockrageradio.com or download the Rock Rage Radio app or tune in or however the fuck you want to listen to our show.
Let's go ahead and clarify. You can listen at their website, rockrageradio.com or honestbrutality.com. I have a player there. You can listen live on Facebook. You can listen from the actual official Rock Rage Radio app, or you can listen on TuneIn. And I believe that we are working on, as a station, getting on a couple of the other newer streaming platforms as well.
Yeah. So basically, if you want to find us on the radio, you can.
It's not tough.
It's not tough.
It is actually really easy. When people go, well, where's the link?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Link this, motherfucker.
Just do some work. Did you mention Tuesday nights?
No, I did not. But we have Center Stage on Center Stage with Honest Brutality on Rock Rage Radio, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, where we take a band, highlight them for an hour, a little conversation, a little bit of music, and turn you on to some shit you need to know about. When you get done checking out those shows, you give us a call, 530-962-0411. Again, that's 530-962-0411. We'd love to hear from you.
In the meantime, you know what's coming, so scream along with us. Be good, people. Take care of one another. And most importantly, stay metal!
Hello, everybody. This is Caleb Fairchild with Imperial Skies. We are going to be listening to our song, Paralyzed, only on Honest Brutality Radio.